This is something that was filed by the state in the Sarah Boone case. Notice a supplemental discovery. Comes now to the state of Florida by and through the undersigned assistant state attorney, hereby makes the following information available to the defense and states the following. 1. Abraham Moreno gave a statement to law enforcement in this case, which has been provided in discovery pages. Number 2. The undersigned assistant state attorney spoke with Mr. Moreno in advance of the trial on September 23rd, 2024. Was that yesterday? Yesterday. Number 3, Mr. Moreno indicated to the assistant state attorney that the defendant was stating what happened was an accident on the day of the murder. Now, the reason why the state is going to bring this up over and over and over again, because it seems like Sarah Boone said it was an accident in the body cam interrogation, blah, blah, blah. However, the new, her defense right now is that it's not really a new defense because we've already seen her previous attorneys kind of like entertaining the battered spouse defense. And so what was clarified in the previous hearing was that if you're going to go for the battered spouse defense, it's supposed to be an explanation, like a justification for what you did, why you did to, what you did to the victim, right? In this case, it's George. And so they're trying to say that like, oh, Sarah Boone is a victim. She's a battered spouse, she gets beat on by George. And what she did to George is justified because maybe she was scared of him. Maybe she kept him in the suitcase because of blah, 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 blah. I don't know. The suitcase thing is still really weird because, again, it's not like she stabbed him. It's not like she shot him. He was in a suitcase. And so the state, they're going to really remind us, and especially to the jury, it's like, hey, how can you say this to justify your accent? How are you going to say this to justify your actions when, in fact, you kept telling us it was an accident, it was an accident, it was an accident. So now we see why Sarah Boone's defense is trying really, really hard to try to get out the interrogation video, the body cam footages, because, Sarah Boone was on there saying that it was an accident. So back to this document. Mr. Moreno indicated to this assistant state attorney that the defendant was stating what happened was an accident on the day of the murder. Mr. Moreno said the defendant stated that she was teaching him a lesson. Things got out of hand. And you know what? I think that story makes sense. I think it fits because, like I said, George being in a suitcase, George being found in a suitcase, George being deceased in a suitcase, it just doesn't make sense if you're trying to say that like, oh, hey, it was like self-defense, and my actions were justified because I was scared of him, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, but he was in a suitcase. It's not like it was like the heat of the moment and then you attacked him. It was like he got in the suitcase. You let him in there. You let him stay in there. And then he was trying to get out and then you were filming him. It's really weird. But the fact that, the state bringing up, hey, like Sarah Boone was trying to teach him a lesson, things got out of hand and she fell asleep. That story tracks more in my opinion, because I think Sarah Boone and George were friendly. They were playing games that night. They were playing hide and go seek, whatever. They were drinking, taking pictures, dancing with the dogs, whatever. They were probably goofing around. George got in the suitcase. Sarah zipped him up and was like, you know what? I'm going to take this opportunity to punish you for all the things that you've done to me. I'm going to take this opportunity. I'm going to punish you. I'm going to leave you in there. I'm going to humiliate you. I'm going to make fun of you. I'm going to film you. And I think she was drunk and she fell asleep and she was just like, fuck you. I don't care what happens to you. If you die, you die. If you don't die, you don't die. I don't know. That's what I'm thinking, And unfortunately, he died. So, she did what she did. And I think she knew what she was doing. Like, yeah, I think she was tipsy, drunk, but at the same time, that's not an excuse to kill someone. But anyways, that's the reason why the state's bringing this up. And that makes sense. She's an alcoholic. She fell asleep. Because for me, I don't know. I mean, what the defense can really get at is I think they could try to say, hey, you know what? It was an accident. It was an accident. I think that's the most that could make sense for the jury. But for them to say that, self-defense because of this, or for them to say that, I don't know. That to me just doesn't make sense. But like I said, defense attorneys, they get really creative. And that's why I always appreciate them, because they get so creative to the point that sometimes when they try to pitch their story, they're so good at convincing you that for a second, you might buy it. And it's until you listen to other witnesses, you're like, oh, you know what? Never mind. What was I thinking? Why was I buying to their theory? But like I said, when we listen to opening statements, maybe for a second we'll be convinced of Sarah Boone's defense. Maybe, possibly. Okay, sorry. So Sarah Boone, new stuff that's popping in. We have, feel free if you guys want to, feel free to join the Discord. If you guys want to post anything about this case, you can post in our Discord. We have a true crime section. And like the stream if you're enjoying it. Let me adjust my butt really quick and drink some water. I think Judge Kranick thought it was going to take about maybe 3 days. All right, what do we got here? Notice a supplemental discovery. Comes now to the state of Florida by and through the undersigned assistant state attorney, hereby makes the following information available to the defense and states as follow. BWC videos. body-worn camera, I think, videos from Orange County case, state of Florida versus Sarah Boone. Copies of evidence listed available for copy upon a request with a blank disc by Mr. Cacciatore. So Mr. Owens got the body-worn camera videos. Amended notice of taking depositions, change of location. Whose deposition are they taking? Who wrote this? July F. Harper. Julie, is that you? Julie, are you July F. Harper now? Julie Harper is the forensic psychologist who says Sarah Boone qualifies for battered spouse defense. Also met with Sarah Boone about 6 times, like 4 or 5 years ago. Okay. July Harper. Motion to suppress, defendant's statement at Orange County Sheriff's Office. Now, this is, I'm hoping to hear this argument. I don't think they're going to talk about this in this week's hearing. I think they might have a separate pretrial. It seems like that's what they discussed with the judge, but who knows? Maybe they'll just stick it all in one day. We'll see. Comes now the defendant by and through the undersigned attorney pursuant to Florida Rules of Criminal Procedure, the 5th and 6th Amendment of the United States Constitution, Article 1, Section 9 of the Florida Constitution, and respectfully moves the court to suppress all statements. Yeah, if they can get all these statements suppressed during the interrogation, that could really help her out with her saying that, you know, it could help with the whole accident thing when she was talking about interrogation. But I mean, it was still mentioned in the body cam and then a 911 call. So, all right, number 1, defendant Sarah Boone is charged by, let's see, 2nd-degree murder. Number 2, on or about February 24th, 2020, defendant called 911 in response to finding her boyfriend George Torres deceased. Number 3, Deputy Kayla Rodriguez of the Orange County Sheriff's Office arrived on the scene with her body cam activated. Deputy Rodriguez spoke to the defendant and realized a death had occurred. Deputy Rodriguez advised her superiors and secured the scene. Number 4, sometimes later, homicide investigator Chelsea Connolly, a.k.a. Chelsea Copsol, and Scott Lowen arrived. These 2 investigators would ultimately be responsible for this homicide investigation and were involved in the interrogation of the defendant at the Orange County Sheriff's Office the next day. Number 5, the defendant was ordered to remain on the scene while Orange County Sheriff's Office conducted their investigation. The defendant stayed outside of her apartment for approximately 14 hours during this time. She was out there for 14 hours? Or did they mean that she couldn't go back to the apartment for 14 hours? Number 6, at some point, the defendant was asked to get into a vehicle with Detective Copsol? How do you pronounce that, guys? And Detective Lowen. Once inside, Detective K recorded interrogation with the defendant after partially reading her Miranda rights, omitting the final question. I think the final question was, do you understand what I'm saying and do you want to proceed or something like that? The defendant was advised of this recorded interrogation was routine protocol, the official procedure for any death investigation. Number 7, during the investigation, Detective K asked to see the defendant's phone. The defendant complied and gave her phone to the detective. The defendant was asked to unlock her phone and she complied with the demands of the lead detective. Number 8, after Detective K had the defendant's phone for a period of time, she came back and told the defendant that she was taking the phone. Detective K asked the defendant to sign a form releasing it to the Orange County Sheriff's Office for further investigation. The defendant acquiesced to the authority and signed the form. Okay, so she signed the form. All right. Number 9, the defendant was told that one of the detectives would return her phone to the defendant at her apartment in Winter Park the following afternoon. Number 10, later that evening, the defendant moved to her ex-husband's home, Brian Boone, for the night. Poor Brian. Using her ex-husband's phone, the defendant called lead detective Chelsea K to express her concern that Detective K was not being truthful about law enforcement motives as it relates to the defendant. The defendant told the detectives she believed they were trying to trick her. 11. The detective assured the defendant that they were not trying to trick or implicate her, but that the following day the defendant needed to drive to Orange County Sheriff's Office to retrieve her phone. The detective explained that the reason for the change in plans was because she was pregnant and not feeling well. We did hear a little bit about the summary at last week's hearing. 12. The next day, February 25th, 2020, the defendant arrived at Orange County Sheriff's Office to retrieve her phone and had questions about this tragic event. So she showed up, had maybe like a list of things that she wanted to discuss with the detectives. 13, while still under the impression that she was retrieving her phone, Detective Lowen led the defendant upstairs into an interrogation room. A custodial interrogation ensued. Immediately after the interrogation, the defendant was arrested and charged with the offense above. 14. This approximate 2-hour interrogation was recorded. 15. The initial dialogue between Detective K and the defendant Sarah Boone. Detective, I'm going to have to sit you in the green chair. Detective, appreciate you coming in. Sarah Boone, yes, ma'am. I wanted to ask about these whenever you have a moment, referring to her written notes with questions. Detective, sure. Detective, so obviously he received his autopsy. So I'm going to have to read you your rights again because we have to talk about that. Bold, underline. Detective, and we're not done talking about the incident. Detective, we just have to do it. Bold, underline. Sarah Boone, just like what we did yesterday. Sarah Boone, normal protocol. Detective, just like what we did yesterday. Detective, remember, I read you the rights. Detective, yeah, it's the same thing, but since I'm asking you a follow-up question, I need to read them to you, okay? Detective, in bold, italic. So you have to the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in court. You have the right to talk to a lawyer before and during the questioning without charge. If you cannot afford a lawyer and want one can be provided for you before questioning without charge. Has anyone threatened you or promised you anything to get you to talk to me? Sarah Boone, no. Detective, and do you understand what I just read to you? Bold, italic. Sarah Boone, yes. Detective, perfect, okay. Detective, so this morning we went to his autopsy and we were informed of his injuries he had by the doctor. Defendant, where? Detective, so he's got scratch marks to his back. 16. The interrogation continued for approximately 2 hours. At the end, while still in the interrogation room, the defendant was placed in handcuffs and was arrested. 17. The detective read to the defendant her Miranda rights directly from the printed card of Orange County Sheriff's Office. The detective omitted the final question printed on the standardized Miranda card of the Orange County Sheriff's Office. 18. Detective omitted the same Miranda rights question that she omitted the day before. Number 19. The omitted final Miranda rights question is, bold, italic. Having these rights in mind, do you wish to talk to us now? Question mark. 20. The defense has yet to receive a true and accurate copy of the Miranda rights card from the Orange County Sheriff's Office. 21. Upon information belief, it would look something like this. 1. You have a right to remain silent. 2. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. 3. You have a right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned. 4. If you cannot afford a lawyer, one will be appointed to you to represent you before any questioning if you wish. 5. You can decide any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Waiver. Do you understand each of these questions? Do you understand each of these rights I have explained to you? Question mark. Having these rights in mind, do you wish to talk to us now? Question mark. So he's saying that was omitted. Number 22. The interrogation videos you've seen of Sarah Boone aren't the complete interrogation that withhold plenty of details into trial, so we don't know how long each video really is, or if there's only 2. Yeah, because there's one that they mentioned about her being in the back of the car, and I don't remember seeing body cam footages of Sarah Boone being in the car. I don't remember that. 22. Based on the circumstances surrounding the interrogation, the defendant's statement was coerced and not freely and voluntarily given. The defendant did not freely and knowingly waive her rights under Miranda. 23. As such, the entire 23-hour interrogation should be suppressed. I mean, like I said, body cam, 911 call, already looks bad for Sarah Boone. What else is there? Order on state's motion for court-appointed experts to produce reports. The motion is denied. Oh, I thought the judge was okay with having the experts give their reports. Let me see what it says. No explanation, just denied. That's it. Huh. I don't know. I thought the judge was fine with them producing reports. I could have sworn they addressed this last week in last week's hearing. Okay. Anything else? I think that's about, yeah, that's it. That's the new stuff that's been filed recently. I mean, we knew James Owens, we knew the defense was going to file this because they talked about it in the past 2 hearings. So we knew that there was going to be some issues with, well, I mean, they said body cam footage and they said an interrogation. So I think maybe the body cam, they're like, that one's fine. But interrogation, we're going to try to get that one thrown out. But I don't know if that's going to be a separate pretrial hearing or maybe they'll decide to just address everything in 2 days from now. But I think from what I've heard between Sarah Boone's defense and the judge, I think they said they're going to do a separate pretrial. All right, well, let's see what else they got because trial is going to be happening in less than 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks. How long do you guys think jury selection is going to take? Oh, the car is audio only. I haven't seen that one. If you guys, can you guys link it in the Discord? I don't know the rules, but in my opinion, what the detective said is close enough that they aren't going to win with this. Yeah, it seems like when they initially brought this up with the judge, it didn't seem like the judge was really buying into what the defense was saying. The state seems like they were a little bit confused as well, but yeah, it was a lot of back and forth in last time's hearing. 2.5 days. Yeah, I feel like it's going to be 2 to 3 days.